Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Things Love. I'm your host, Kelly Ann Garnett from Sacred Dating. And my special guest today is Kori Strobl, who is a coach that works with women who are recovering from, I'm going to read this out loud. She's a self-leadership coach. I love that so much. Self-leadership coach that specializes in private coaching. And she has a course called Recovering People Pleasers Guide to Belonging to Yourself. I love that so much. Welcome, Kori.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here with you. It's nice to see you.
You too. So, a little side note, Kori and I went to graduate school together and randomly ran into each other 20 years later in San Diego at a women's networking event. And so, as soon as we connected, we're like, oh, we could go to so many different avenues with our connection of the work we do. So, here we are. Very excited. So
Yeah.
I like to get started with one question and then I'll finish with one question and then we'll get into the people pleasing and how that affects relationships specifically and dating and those things. So
Okay.
the question I like to ask is, in your opinion, what do most people misunderstand about love?
Yeah, that's a very broad question.
I know.
But I think there's this phrase that's often said that you can't be loved until you fully love yourself is something that's been said a lot. And or you can't truly, oh, that's what it is. You can't truly love another unless you love yourself. And I don't agree with that. And that's because people pleasers are actually really good at loving other people. We pour into other people. So I never understood that because I was like, I sure as heck give lots of love and I genuinely love these people, but I'm actually struggling to love myself. And so
Yeah.
what I understood is that it's not that in order to love, I have to love myself. It's in order for me to receive love, I have to love myself. In order for me to
Oh,
feel love, I have to love myself. Because otherwise, I have a hard time receiving it back. I have a hard time letting it land on me. So even if someone does something kind and generous for me, it doesn't penetrate deep into me. It kind of stays on the surface as if someone just poured some water on me instead of something actually being consumed by me. And so that's what I'd have to offer for that.
I love that. Well, and so Kori and I both got, did you get the master's degree?
Yeah. Hmm.
We got a master's degree at the University of Santa Monica. And the core of that was to teach us love, how to be loved, how to receive love, all the things love. And so I remember in our practicum, I was telling one of our professors, Ron, the golden rule I feel like is flawed because it's similar to what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But it's so much easier to do for others more than we do for ourselves. And so I told him it should be do unto ourselves as much as we do for others, if not
Yes,
more.
yes. Well, and that brings up something that I talk a lot about in my work, and that is for people pleasers, they really struggle to see themselves as an equal in relationships. And so oftentimes they're constantly positioning themselves sort of below somebody. In other words, they have to work for it, they have to give it, they have to, and so they're just pouring in and pouring into this other person, and they tend to minimize themselves. But that also has a reaction in the sense that now that I've poured so much into you, every once in a while, I just can't stand it. I'm going to ask for something. And so now I'm going to demand it, right? And it's going to come out as like, I deserve this. I'm demanding what I'm worth, but it's coming with at such a, like aggressive way because of everything they've poured in. It's almost like they've been pouring in and now they're going to make their withdrawal and they're demanding the withdrawal. So
Oh,
it doesn't work relationally. But
yeah.
if somebody holds themselves as an equal with another person and they demand equality in a relationship, then when there is a difference, if both people show up in this is what's true for me, well, this is what's true for me. If they matter equally, we can get creative. We can say, oh, okay, well, if that is true, where these both matter, now what do we do? And it's not about who wins. It's not even compromise because I feel like compromise, the understanding is somebody has to lose or everybody loses a little. To
Yeah,
me,
true.
this idea is like, let's just get creative, holding both of these things as true.
Co-creating.
Yeah. And
I
so
love
it's
that.
a way more interesting conversation. It invites more nuance, but it requires, again, both people to step in as equals. So it's not just demanding equality from the other person. If you don't see yourself as equal to the person you're in relationship with, it doesn't matter how they see you. You won't show up that way.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like from what you were saying that maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, they feel almost like they have to earn the love.
It's,
And then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, absolutely. I was just agreeing with you. Yeah.
Okay. And then they become resentful
Yeah.
when they're not, their needs aren't being met.
Yeah. Well, it becomes transactional is what happens, right? So
Mm,
I pour in, I pour in, I pour in, and then, now I need something. And so it just ends up whenever your love is based on your usefulness, then it ends up being transactional. It falls into that down the road and it ends up not working for anybody.
yeah, that's so rough. And it's right now dating, the world that we're in, especially with younger generations, seem to be doing from the female side more transactional dating because they are setting their demands a little bit higher, which there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
That's good, but there also has to be room, as you were saying, there has to be the kind of co-creation. There have to be, what I'm hearing in that is reciprocation.
That's absolutely it. And people pleasers really struggle with reciprocal relationship.
Mm. There was something you were telling me earlier about reciprocation. I mean, not reciprocation. Sorry, about the people pleasers when it comes to relationships. I think it was just what you were saying about how they're just constantly trying to pour into their partner. What
Yeah.
about, have you noticed anything when it comes to dating?
Well, the most interesting thing, I'm glad you asked that because one of the most interesting things I've noticed for people pleasers in dating is how much meaning is put on chemistry, right?
Oh
So,
my
and
gosh,
that's so
100%.
yeah. So what happens is the attachment is based on chemistry. And then there's meaning created within that chemistry. And then a lot of the people pleasing behavior is to maintain that chemistry. And so, but unfortunately, that means that they start abandoning themselves. They start shrinking. They start adjusting and morphing just to try and hold on to the chemistry because the chemistry just felt, because the chemistry is what feels so good, right? But
It really
chemistry
does.
isn't enough to create a relationship. So,
Mhm.
and chemistry is a little bit, it's more instant. It happens quickly, right? And this
Mhm.
is for friendships too, because I've had this with female friends too. There's people where I'm like, oh my God, I have so much chemistry with, and I can't wait to be friends with her. And it
Yeah.
freaking doesn't work, right? Because the other piece is capacity. Does this person actually have the capacity to be in a relationship with me? And so, and that's only, here's the fun thing, that's only figured out through tension, a moment of
Mm-hmm.
tension. In other words, when there's a moment of difference between us, when somebody's upset, when I'm upset, right? How do we handle that space? How do we show up for each other? And you can only learn that over time, right? Well, in chemistry, if you prize chemistry, guess what you're trying to avoid at all cost? Tension, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so then you never really understand capacity. Does this person have capacity? So when women are setting these higher standards for men, my hope is the standard they're setting is I want to discover whether this person has the capacity. And that is
Mm-hmm.
only discovered over time.
Well, and I think for me, when I'm working with clients, but you also have to discover if you have the capacity
True.
to offer and be all that he needs you to be as well, or she, depending on
Yeah.
who's listening. But yeah, I mean, it's so important to be able to, like, the chemistry piece is,
It's fun.
it's so much fun. Everything you're saying, I paused because everything you're saying, I was like, oh, that was so me. That
Yeah.
was so me.
Yeah.
Um, and chemistry, oh man. I mean, it's like cocaine. It's, and I've never done cocaine, but I've heard it's like an addiction. It's like a drug because it feels so good.
Yeah.
But it's, what is it literally? It's literally the chemicals in our body that
Yeah.
are getting activated.
Yeah.
That's all that is. So it's not even, true. It's true in that this is getting activated, but it's not the basis for what's possible in the relationship.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, like, I mean, there's so many times where I'm like, where clients have been like, I need chemistry, it has to be chemistry, both male and female.
Yeah, of course.
There must be amazing chemistry. And
Sure.
I say that should be the last thing
Yeah.
that you're focusing on. So what do you tell your clients that you've worked with who
Well, I
have
mean,
gone through that?
a big lesson that I learned one time actually was with a friendship. There was this woman who was so sparkly and so amazing and so loving. I just want, one of those people you're like, you just want to be her best friend, right? So it was like that, but she did not have the capacity to be in a relationship with me. And so I
Wow.
got hurt time and time again in the friendship.
Oh, wow.
But then I had this, it was beautiful. I'm so grateful for her. And she's such an amazing person still, and she's still so sparkly. But she taught me that I can see an awesome human being, an awesome person, and I don't need to possess them. I can just enjoy, she is this awesome person. She doesn't have the capacity to be in a relationship with me, but that's okay, right? So I can just enjoy how I feel around her when I see her, but I don't actually have to like consume it. I don't have to like own it and possess it. And so there's a degree of learning to just exist within chemistry without having to like grab a hold of it. And so this
I love
happens a
that.
lot with flirting, right? Like we like to
Yeah.
flirt. Like flirting is this real like fun chemistry, right? But as soon as flirting starts to turn into I want it, I want to grab it, it starts to change a little bit, right? It feels different in those moments. So what would it be like to live in that a little longer while you're discovering whether there's actual capacity here?
That's so good. And I love what you said about just enjoying her for, whenever you run into her, enjoying her for what she is and what she brings to the table in those moments, and then being in acceptance of, and then this is all that I'm going to experience with her, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's really this like access. Like I think our culture, especially, is right now really too much into if it doesn't light you up, get rid of it. It's like that Marie Kondo version of relationships, right? Like we just if it doesn't light you up, get rid of it. I'm not a fan of that, but I do believe in access. And so like there's certain people that have a capacity, and they should like if you feel safe with them, they have access to you.
Hmm.
And I call that like your A circle. And like B and C circle, it's not that you don't need to ever like them or hang out with them, but maybe they have a limited capacity. So you have limited access, right? So
Right.
it's not about all or nothing. Really, it's
Yeah.
about how can I relate to somebody and start with a little bit limited access. So that's that flirting, that's the enjoying capacity. You have to start with limited access, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I have to be transparent and honest. I'm like, no, you can be private, right? Because it's okay to decide how much access somebody gets with you. And that's only can be determined over time.
Yes. And I think too, a lot of people, and myself included, I wanted that fairy tale ending and experience. I wanted it to be, day one, we never spent
Right,
a day apart.
right,
Like
right.
there's so many fairy tales that were running my story from the background while I was dating.
Yeah.
And Vince did move in within like 3 months, I think it was, that he moved in. And it was great, but both of us realized that that was more of the fairy tale or the fantasy that we
Yeah,
wanted to fulfill,
sure.
and could have used a little bit more time to build a foundation and, really get a into a deeply connected place before we rushed into that. But, it is what it is. And we're
You
grateful.
found
We're
your way. Yeah, you found your way.
Yeah, we found our way, exactly. But it's so important to distinguish, or discern rather, who you want to spend time with and how you want to spend time with them. So even with this friend that you were saying was so sparkly, like if you come to the place of like, you know what, she's someone I can hang out with, every couple months or whatever, and that's perfect.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't have to be an all or nothing is kind of what you're saying, and having those different groupings. I like the ABC in
Yeah.
your inner circle versus inner circle. Like there's the different layers that are possible, and you just own that. Like I don't want to take this personally that this friend is not giving me or doesn't have the capacity to invest in a friendship with me that I want and I'm capable of. So what can I don't want to kick her out of my life either. So how can I find a balance within me,
Yeah,
an acceptance that still allows for us to have time together without putting and projecting all of my expectations onto her,
that's right.
and allow and then not taking offense if she isn't able to show up in the ways that I want and need. So I
Yeah,
love that. I think that's so great.
yeah.
And it's so important, especially as you're saying, for the flirting and the dating, to take the time and get to know somebody. I mean, I know the fantasy and the fairy tale are so fun, but this is hopefully something you want to have forever. So what's the rush?
That's it. Yeah,
Vince
yeah.
and I didn't even kiss on our first date. I love kissing. And we didn't kiss on our first date. He said he wasn't in the right mindset. Like we had a great first date, but he wanted it to be a very intentional first kiss. And I was
Hmm.
like, okay, great. I had no
Yeah,
problems with that because what's the rush?
yeah,
And so it took a little over a month. I think it's
hmm,
like 6 weeks before we actually kissed.
yeah.
And
I bet it was a good one.
oh my God,
I
it was
bet it was really good.
it was unbelievable. I was about to actually head home because I was exhausted, and then I went with him to the beach for a little bit, and we ended up staying out till 5 in the morning. So just kissing. That was it. We were just kissing, and it was just
Yeah,
phenomenal. It was like
right.
next level.
Yeah,
And but the point being was we decided like we wanted this to be our last first kiss. And
hmm.
so even just making that intention of like, I want this to be my last first date. I want this to, like really owning that if this is it, there's no rush. I can
Hmm.
allow myself to, show up and share little bits here and there. And it doesn't have to be the all or nothing
Yeah.
approach.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. I
Agreed.
love that so much.
Yeah.
And so with your clients, are you usually working with women since they're the ones who are people pleasing the most? Or do you ever have
I also have men I work with as well. But yes, you're right. Mostly it's women. But even when I do workshops, there's always a few men in there. Absolutely.
really?
Yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's usually their story? I mean, for women, I feel like we were raised to be, we take care of the family. So we're the nurturers and we're meant to give and give and give. And then we're not taught how to nurture ourselves.
Yeah.
And in
Well,
fact, that's seen as selfish.
well, for a lot of people pleasers, I think that that definitely plays a role for women, but a lot of people pleasers that grew up in a household where they just weren't met. They weren't
Uh,
met emotionally. And so
oh,
they learned in not being emotionally met, like if they're like in other words, if they can't meet me here, I can give to my parents and that feels good. So they can't come to give to me. They don't have the capacity, right? So we often were raised by people that lacked capacity. And so we end up in relationships with people that lack capacity because that's what we've come to know about love. And so it's really more so that's why it's not gendered in that way because so many people grew up in a house that the parents lacked capacity. And it's not I don't want to blame a whole generation, but there was a whole generation that didn't have the information we have now. And the goal of parenting was different back then. It was just raise healthy people that get good jobs, right? It wasn't even about emotional intelligence or anything the way that it is now. So I feel like there's a lot of really good parents that met their goal. That was the goal of the time of parenting, but they didn't understand emotional maturity, emotional connection. So there's a lot of people that never got met, and so they still don't know how to get met. And the trick is that oftentimes they're still trying to get met by other people. So it's
yeah.
that whole thing. They keep waiting to be chosen. And
Mm,
the thing that's really hard is that the truth is that you have to choose yourself first, right? Because otherwise, every time you're out there trying to get chosen, that feeling of being chosen is such a drug that you're willing to abandon yourself to try and get it. Right. And so, and the self-abandonment, it doesn't create a choosing energy. It creates a chasing energy. So now you're chasing after something. And so even if someone does choose you, you never even feel chosen because you had to chase it. Right.
yeah.
It's really about learning how to choose yourself first. And that is a very, very difficult thing to tell a people pleaser to do.
This is what I do with my clients. The exact thing is you've
Yes.
got to choose yourself first. 100%. And even if you get the guy, because I was doing that with an ex and I got the guy, and then I'm feeling, insecure or feeling like, is it enough? I'm not certain in his choices because I felt like I did the chasing. Now I got him and he's kind of got one foot in, one foot out is the
Yeah.
energy that I felt. So now I'm feeling in the relationship, like, is he going to leave? Is this not going to,
Well,
like
because
there's
now you have to
just,
keep working for it, right? Like if
yes,
you taste it to get it, the feeling is going to be, I have to keep earning it, right?
yes,
So it's
exactly.
yeah, so it's you never really get to relax, right? But
No.
if you come from a place of choosing yourself, then that's where you're relaxed. You're relaxed inside of yourself because you're very clear with this is what's acceptable to me in my life. This is how I want to be related to. This is how a woman who chooses or a man who chooses himself, this is what they want in their sphere and who they want to give access to. Right. So
Yeah.
it's got to come from here first. And again, people pleasers are so other focused that it is really hard to tell them to come from inside of themselves. That is a very foreign place. And so a lot of the work I do is really just teaching someone into themselves.
Beautiful. What's one way that you do that? Something quick that somebody could do right now.
Well, a lot of it is just asking them, how do you feel and how do you know you feel that way? Because a lot of times they're scanning the room. They're gonna if they basically determine how they feel by how the room feels and how the people in the room feel, and then they go about trying to sort of manage it. So when I just say, well, how do you feel right now? Right? And where do you feel it? How do you know you feel that way? Immediately, they have to be in their own body. They have to drop in there. Right. And then
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes they'll come out and try and tell me stories about things outside of themselves that explain they're feeling inside. And I said, do you see what you just did? You just jumped outside again. Right. And so it's sort of like, let's come back and let's just be here. Right. Because it's about learning how to be here and stay. If we're not abandoning ourselves, what we're doing is we're staying with ourselves. And so
Yes.
learning how to stay with ourselves. And so, being out in the dating world as a person who stays with themselves as they're meeting these other people, to me would be the ideal way to date.
Yes,
I'm not dating
100%.
now, so I don't
Yeah.
married, but I'm
Right.
right, yes.
Yes, and that's where the shift that I had, and that's the shift I help my clients move through is just to honor. Like I realized after getting out of a toxic relationship for 13 years that I was not honoring my heart and honoring what I've been wanting for so long and treating it as sacred. Hence the name sacred dating, because
Yeah.
there's so many times that we just abandon ourselves to please the other, to earn the other's love, to chase whatever, the chemistry, all the things, manipulate. I became a human pretzel time and time again to be the person I thought he wanted me to be. Nobody ever said to me, Kelly, you need to show up this way for me if you want to be with me. Like
Yeah,
nobody
nobody.
told me that.
Oh,
So where I decided, I mean, it's perfect what you were saying. My parents had 3 kids back to back to back. So, I mean, I was born and then had 2 more back to back. So there's 3 of us and it's chaos, just
yeah,
a
limited
lot.
capacity. Yeah.
Exactly. Just a limited capacity. And I love what you said about that because as an elementary teacher and witnessing how our generation raised their children, and being, so much more involved, helicopter parents. I think they're called vacuum parents that are like vacuuming the way to clear the path for kids so they don't have the challenges that we had. But I think it's really about understanding subconsciously the capacity. They wanted to bring more capacity for parenting, for loving, for supporting their kids, which is beautiful.
Sure.
But then there also needs to be boundaries.
Well,
So,
I think what you're speaking to, and it might be a little bit off topic, but what you're speaking to is whether that increase of capacity is based off of woundedness or based off of healing, right? So
yeah,
if you're increasing your capacity from a wounded place, then you probably lack boundaries. But if you're doing it
yeah.
from a healed place, then it does contain boundaries in it.
Well, and I think as generations come up, I mean, the
Yeah.
generation, is it the Gen Zers aren't dating a lot right now. And we're part of, X is part of the final boomer shift,
Mhm.
which was always like for women, especially, let's get married, like have somebody take
Oh,
care
yeah.
of us. And that's part of that too, the people pleasing. Like I'm supposed to take care of my husband and he gets, he does the work and gets the money and I take care of him and the children. So it makes sense how that has trickled down. But I also feel like it's so interesting to see as I see the different generations navigating dating and love,
Mhm.
how Zers are like, nah, I don't really need it. It's okay. I'll date, but not really. Or well, I don't
Mhm.
care. They're just so much more, there's less of a need for it.
Yeah.
Or I think the Xers were still in the need, but starting to shift out of it.
Yes.
And millennials kind of finished it off. And then the Zers are coming in like, whatever.
Yeah, it's fine.
They're a fascinating generation,
Yeah.
very fascinating, and operating just so differently. So part of it is could be the wounded versus healed, but part of it is just the generational
That's
shifts
right.
that
I'm
occur
sure of that. I'm sure of
as
that.
well,
Yeah.
because our generation was so much about a new way of parenting, and part of
Mhm.
it, I'm sure most of it was unhealed wounds, but it's so interesting to see it from the outside because I don't have children, but to
Mhm.
see it as a teacher and looking from the outside and like, why is it this whole generation is not all people, obviously, but just as a collective
Collective. Yeah.
operating in these ways? It's just
Yeah.
so fascinating. So yeah,
Sure.
I love
Sure.
I love spiritual psychology is what we have our masters in. I love
Yes.
how we operate as
Yeah,
humans.
humans are a wacky bunch, man. If you really get down to it, I mean, I think with my clients, we spend a lot of time of laughing at the absurdity, right? Like some of the things that we think are true and operate from, like in the end, like if you can really heal, you can just laugh at yourself because it's really all so ridiculous. Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. And one of the beautiful things I learned that truly blew my mind at USM is that we have our thoughts, but we are not our thoughts.
That's
And they're
right.
not even necessarily true. And we
Mhm.
have our feelings, but we are not our feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just stories that we're making up and making meaning out of whatever we're navigating through and
Yeah.
having the thoughts and the reactions to what's going on. But when we really I love Byron Katie's work where she has you stop and go, okay, let's really look
Yeah.
and kind of come into a more grounded place, looking from the higher view, what's really going on.
Yeah.
Let's get really
Well, and
clear.
that brings to mind just in terms of the people pleasing, something that's not often talked about is really the root of people pleasing. I mean, not the source, but the root of it is anxiety. There's
Mm,
anxiety about a loss of connection, anxiety about the other person's reaction, anxiety about how the other person feels and what that means for me, right? So it's deeply rooted in anxiety. So a lot of the work that's out there in people pleasing doesn't take that into consideration because it's setting a boundary, if you've never set one before, talk about triggering anxiety, right? So because now you're going to set a boundary and now you have to have the other person's reaction to your boundary, right? And so it's really terrifying. So if you don't know how to work with that anxiety, then you're going to set your boundary and then you're going to soften it. Or you're going to set your boundary and people say they feel guilty. I don't think they feel guilty. I think they feel anxious about the other
mhm.
person's reaction. Right.
Yeah.
And so what often they'll do is instead of holding a boundary, they'll set a boundary. In other words, they'll give it to the other person. So they'll say, I'd like you to not do this or to do this. And then the person can either do it or not. And then,
Right.
and then,
Absolutely.
and then they're like, oh, well, they didn't respect my boundary. I'm like, well, you're not respecting your boundary because you're the one who has to hold a boundary, right? So I'm really on a mission to change the language from setting boundaries to holding boundaries
Oh, I love that.
because it's not really about the other person at all. Right. And
Yeah.
so they are welcome to have their reaction. It's really about what are you doing, regardless of their reaction. Right. And
Hmm.
the truth is, most people don't like not getting what they want. Right. So if you put up a
True.
boundary, people are going to have feelings about that. They're going to be
Yep.
disappointed or frustrated or right. So it's sort of like, if a boundary is going to trigger something in someone, we have to give them the dignity of those feelings, but we have to decide we're not responsible for them. It's okay that I don't give them access.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And that, but that's a lot of work to be able to deal with that anxiety. And I think that piece is
absolutely.
really missing from the conversation.
That's brilliant. Absolutely. And I think, for someone with anxious attachment style, which goes hand in hand, obviously,
People pleasing.
uh, I I was always scared to get the no or the backlash. People don't want to be told what to do anyway, right? Most
Oh,
people. So there's that.
yes.
But then if I'm dating or in a relationship and he says, he has his reaction, then I feel like he's going to take his love away from me.
That's right. That's the anxiety. The anxiety
Yeah.
is that I'm going to lose this connection. I call it
Yeah.
relational anxiety because it's sort of like, oh no, this is going to affect our relationship. He's going to, the disconnection. It's not even like an abandonment thing. It's literally a loss of connection is the feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that distinction because I love connecting so much. It feels so great. I mean, that I feel like, well, it goes hand in hand with chemistry. If you have
Yeah.
connection, there is a chemistry there. It's different because it's a depth of connection.
Sure.
And you can actually, I guess you can go deeper than just surface level. There's probably the layers. But for me, if ever I feel disconnected from Vince, it's just like, oh, that hurts my heart so much. And it happens. Like
I
it's
mean,
normal.
that it
We
is
ebb
that
and flow.
relationships are ebb and flow for sure.
Yeah. But I love that distinction because it's not about feeling abandoned. It is about feeling that disconnection.
Yeah.
And I think probably growing up with my mom, if I felt a disconnection, if we were fighting about something and
Yes.
then she would pull away,
So
that was like,
painful. So
devastating.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that was me too. It was, it was like people were home, but no one was connected, right? And
Yeah.
I craved connection. And so it was really painful because to have people physically there, but so far away is, it's
Yeah.
as somebody who craves connection, that's really, really painful. And so you
Yes.
figure out how to get connection and how you do that.
Right.
You go over there and you make them happy and you do the things for them and you, right? Like, so I mean, we're survival. So like, of course, we're going to figure it out. I can't exist in
Right.
a place where I have no connection. I'm not built that way. So I will create it, but I'm going to create it by completely giving up like what's true for me just to see you smile because that's enough.
Mm, wow. Beautiful. So true. Okay. So where can people find you?
On my website, and it's just my name, Kori Strobl. So it's KoriStrobl, KoriStrobl.com. And I have some blogs on there and then my courses on there as well. And then you can also reach out to set up, I do a free 30-minute consultation before I work with people because it's really important that we have chemistry when we start so that is the beginning, that is the beginning of building a relationship together. So we use that 30 minutes to see if that connection can be formed, which it generally can be, and then from there we move forward with setting up an ongoing relationship. And then
Fantastic.
that the course is available online too. And then I have Instagram and Facebook. I'm not super active on there. I pretty much use that as a library of my thoughts, but I'm not, as a people pleaser, interacting with social media is a dangerous thing. And so I have really chosen my access on social media. So I don't interact a lot on social media, which I'm sure the algorithms don't appreciate, but I really had to come in right relationship with social media. For a long time, it was either all or nothing. And so my new thing, so you can get a lot of my content on my Instagram and Facebook. And that's also just underneath my name. And yeah, so you can learn a lot more about the work I do, my perspective.
Beautiful. Okay, I have one more question to ask you to wrap it up.
Mm.
And that is, what has love taught you about yourself?
Um, it's taught me how actually expansive I can be
Mm,
because I used to think that I had to and when I say expansive, I think the movement is always outward like this, but when I think expansive, I think that it's a movement in all directions, if that makes sense. And
hmm.
so what I have come to learn through my own work and overcoming my own people pleasing is that my capacity to love increases when I love myself more.
Mm.
So it always felt as if I was withdrawing love when I turned toward myself. But it turns out I'm so much happier and so much fuller. And I have so much more joy and presence when I'm loving myself that my capacity to love others just grows. And so the expansion is really both directions.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
love
I
that.
hadn't ever considered that, so I appreciate you asking the question.
Oh, great. Yeah. It's great to articulate it. Like it's an awareness, but when you
Yeah,
articulate it, there's such a power to it.
for
So thank
sure, for
you for
sure. Yeah.
sharing. Well, thank you so much for being on here. It's been so amazing chatting with you. And
Thank
I'd love to have you back again because I
you.
feel like we can go even deeper.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Take care, everybody. And for Kori's information, it will be in the description. And we'll see you again next time. Oh, I was about to hang up. Stop recording. Okay.